And as sad as it is to say, we've all been a Risatisa and we all know a Legion. What's up, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Isatu, and this is the Gem of My podcast. Before I get into my rant today, I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the love you guys showed on my last video. I honestly did not expect it because I have done Love is Blind reviews in the past, and as a small YouTuber, you kind of get into this cycle of making content and putting it out there and hoping but not expecting a lot of views. But y'all proved me wrong, and I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the likes, the comments, the feedback. Like, it was honestly overwhelming. I was sitting there like, my little video is getting this many views. So thank you guys for that. Honestly, the love you guys showed just gave me motivation to keep going, and I want to encourage others to do the same. Whether it's a YouTube project or any life project that you have, just go ahead and start and don't stop. I am not anywhere near a big channel or a page with a lot of influence, but even to have one person watch my videos, it means so much to me, and I hope that will inspire someone else out there to say, hey, maybe it's time that I start my YouTube channel, or maybe it's time that I start that project that I've been thinking about. Your presence here in the world is important, and people need to know. So start whatever it is that's on your mind and keep going. With that, let's get into today's video. Now, this video is sort of a follow-up to my last video, actually, with AD on Love is Blind and how we were all saying that she should have been able to see the red flags. Now, in the case of Risatisa and Legion, Clay's flags were white compared to Legion's flags. That story to me was so wild. I heard so many people talking about the 50 series on TikTok, and I'll be honest, I did not watch all 50 series. I got to a point where I went to summaries and read the cliff notes, and that was enough for me to understand what was going on. Maybe at some point in the future, I'll go back and listen to all 7 hours, but it was a lot at the time, and honestly, I was like, you know what, let me not do this to myself, because some moments of that are so triggering. I decided to just go and read some summaries so that I could get my thoughts together. And once I got over my initial WTF moment, I realized just how common Risatisa's story is. And as sad as it is to say, we've all been a Risatisa and we all know a Legion. We talk about red flags so much, especially in the age of social media, that you would just think that people would just know when they see a red flag. Like, how could you miss it? But the truth is, it's very easy to do. It doesn't matter if you're 19 or 65. We are all susceptible to this kind of con artistry and debauchery. Like, all susceptible. Nobody is safe out here. So in this video, instead of beating up a dead horse and recounting Risatisa's story, go ahead and watch the 50-part series if you're interested in knowing detail by detail what she went through with Legion. I'm going to go ahead and talk about it from a different angle and really focus on what we can learn from this situation, because there are many Risatisas out there. There are many ADs out there. It's not a unique situation. These people are not unicorns. They're not mythical creatures that just don't know how to pick up on red flags. This is something that a lot of women have gone through, and that's why Risa's story resonated with so many people, because a lot of the things that she was saying, there's levels to this, but really a lot of us have been in a situation where we could have done a lot better. So here are my thoughts and my takeaways from the Risatisa TikTok video series, Who the F Did I Marry? The first step that I'm going to recommend is to do a self-inventory and an audit of your past. So what I mean by this is, many of us, the way we interact with people, it is dependent on our attachment styles. Now, I'm not going to get into the psychology of attachment styles because I'm not a psychologist, but this is such a fundamental and important part of how we interact with people, especially in romantic relationships, that it warrants us to stop and take a deep look at what our attachment styles are and what are the attachment styles of the people that we're interacting with, especially in those romantic relationships. I'm going to link some resources down below on some YouTube channels that I have watched, some psychologists who have gone through attachment styles. They've been really helpful for me to understand my attachment style. And every time I'm watching reality TV now, that's one of the first things that I pick up on is, oh, this person has this type of attachment style. And it really explains why they do the things that they do. So when we talk about Risatisa or AD, there's something missing, right, from their childhood that's causing them to yearn for the connection that they have with Legion or AD. There's something within their attachment styles, and I'm not going to diagnose them. I'm not going to point out which one that they are. But there's something within them that have caused people like Legion and Clay to gravitate towards them and for them to stick around and put up with it. It's not that they're nyakafaida. That's a saying in my language. basically meaning you don't have any backbone, like you don't know how to stand up for yourself. It's not just that they don't know how to stand up for themselves. There's something deep rooted within them that's causing them to not realize that they're being mistreated, or even if they realize it, to not feel empowered to leave that situation. Once you have your attachment style figured out, or at least start to peel back that onion, the next thing that you need to do, that we all need to do, is surround ourselves with truth tellers. People who will hold us accountable. And I'm not talking about the YouTube mom or armchair psychologists who think they know what they're talking about, like me. I'm talking about true people in your lives who care about you, who know who you are, and who can recognize your blind spots, your strengths, and your weaknesses, and can hold you accountable to the types of choices that you make. And this made me think back to AD's wedding after she got rejected at the altar. She was walking away with her family and she was saying that she's never good enough. And her family was like, no, you're always good enough. It's the other person that's not good enough. So this made me think that they may have recognized a pattern with AD's behavior of her picking men who don't treat her well, of her picking men who end up eventually rejecting her or throwing her away like a piece of garbage. So I just couldn't help but wonder, where were these people throughout the season? We met her mom. That was great. That was wonderful. But she, honestly, the bar was not really high to impress her. So other people, maybe sometimes people within your own generation who know what the dating world is like, who maybe they are encountering some of the same red flags that you are, it's good to have people in your corner who understand the situation you're going through, who know you as a person, and who can hold you accountable when you're starting to slip. Because one thing people like Legion do, and I'm not going to keep talking about AD, I promise, but there's just such an uncanny parallel here. But I'm going to try to focus on Risa Tisa and her story, because that's eventually what we'll get to by the end of this video, is what we're taking away from her story. But one thing that people like Legion like to do is they like to isolate you. So if you remember in Risa's story, she was saying that she was in quarantine because it was during the pandemic. So he had pretty much full access to her to be able to feed her as many lies as he wanted, to manipulate her thought processes, to manipulate her perception of him. Like, he had basically a carte blanche to do whatever he wanted to do. And that is a strategy that a lot of manipulators and a lot of abusers will use. They want to keep you shut off from the outside world. Unfortunately for Risa, the pandemic made it that much easier because she literally couldn't go anywhere. But it just really broke my heart to think that she was stuck in her home with this man who basically was able to mold her into the perfect victim. She came in with some pre-existing conditions of a victim, but he really was able to harp on that and make sure that she succumbed to his lies. And they may not physically keep you away from other people, but sometimes they do so many things to you. They do such things to you that you're embarrassed to tell other people. So mentally, you're isolating yourself. And over time, you start telling people less and less what's going on with you. They can't help you because they don't have access to you. And it's just a vicious cycle where you're being manipulated, you're being tricked, you're being lied to, but you feel like you have nowhere to turn. Okay, this next one is the biggest piece in my opinion, because once you have the information you need around your attachment style, once you have the support system around you to be able to tell you the hard truth no matter what it is, now you have to do some work internally. You have to be honest with yourself. And that's a third takeaway that I had from Risa Tisa's story, is being honest with yourself. She articulated something so beautifully in a way that was vulnerable, that was really sad when you think about it, but it was important for her to get that off her chest so that she could walk away from this experience feeling like she learned something. And we can do the same here. So what were those things that she said? Number one, she said she was lonely. Number two, she said she was embarrassed to tell people what was going on, or to break up in such a short time span that people would be like, we told you so. And three, she wanted to get married so badly. Y'all, are y'all seeing the parallel between Risa Tisa and AD? I'm not saying the degrees are the same, they're varying degrees, but especially that last one, the desire to get married, it can be so crippling, it can be so blinding that you don't realize what you're getting yourself into. Knowing what your true north is, it can save you a lot of heartbreak and a lot of heartburn. Is your desperation for marriage clouding your judgment? Are you willfully ignoring red flags for the sake of ticking off an accomplishment box? Do you repeat the same mistakes from one relationship to the next? And if so, do you know what the definition of insanity is? We have to get out of the cycle of thinking that we can just try again. We can just try again. We can just try again. No, sometimes when we get out of a bad relationship, and we've been bamboozled and we've been played, what we need to do is take a step back, do that self-inventory I talked about, start over from step one, and before you get into the next relationship, make sure that you've done the work that you needed to do. You're not dating the same type of man again. Stop with these types. If you have a type and the type hasn't worked, change your type. If you've been dating the same kind of guy again and again and again and you haven't gotten good results, change the type of guy that you date. So I think that we really have to look deep within ourselves and ask ourselves, are we being responsible when we date? Are we actually dating with the right intention? Are we dating the right way? Sometimes we get into a relationship and we're in the relationship for a whole year and we don't know anything about the person besides their first and last name. That's not responsible. It's not a way to get what you're looking for in the end. And if marriage is the goal, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be married. But if marriage is the goal, you have to do your due diligence in the courtship phase, in the dating phase, to make sure that when you say yes at the altar, you're saying yes to somebody that you fully trust. No more half-ass engagements, no more half-ass dating. Let's hold ourselves accountable so that we can hold others accountable. The next thing that I have is to be nice to yourself. So after you've given yourself the verbal and mental beating of doing the self-inventory and auditing your past and really confronting your issues, be nice to yourself. It's not easy out here, okay? It's not like Risa Tisa woke up and chose to get played. It just happened, and unfortunately for her, unfortunately for so many of us, we did not see it coming. In my language, we have a saying that but du gis lu kay fatt. You're not going to see what clogged your eye. So if you all of a sudden have something in your eye, you're not going to know what that thing is until they take it out. You didn't see it coming. Essentially, it's saying you're not going to see it coming. And that's exactly what's going on here. Risa Tisa could not have fathomed that Legion was going to put her through this hellhole. AD probably could not have fathomed, even though she knew that there were red flags, she probably could not have fathomed that Clay was really going to say no at the altar. There are countless stories of women who really thought that they had a great thing, that the man that they were in a relationship with was not going to dog them out like they did. But the reality of it is there are a lot of legions out there. There are a lot of liars out there. There are a lot of people who are not serious about being in a committed relationship with you. And if you ignore those red flags, what you're going to do is end up in a situation where you just get played again and again and again, like we've been talking about. And I think the reason why I wanted to bring this one up around being gentle with yourself is because it's easy to sit back and be like, she's stupid. Why would she go through this? Why would she do this? Why would she do that? And sometimes that is warranted because some people just don't want to learn. Okay, you can put the book right in front of them, give them notes, open book exam, and they will still fail. But the reality of it is why this story resonated with a lot of us. Risa Tisa is us. We can see ourselves in Risa Tisa. In some way, shape, or form, we have been played in the past or we're being played right now. So it resonated for a reason, and she's going viral for a reason. She's making a sensation for a reason because so many of us see ourselves in her, and that's what makes it so hard to watch, because you either have to pretend that you could never fall for this, or you have fallen for this in the past and it hurts that much more to watch it because you see so many aspects of yourself in the story. You start thinking back like, wow, was I really that stupid? Or am I being stupid right now? And that's okay. We're not judging. We're not passing judgment here. We've all been there. I can tell y'all a story, okay, about how I got bamboozled in the past. If y'all are interested, let me know. We can do a story time. I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be by going into the dark past of a horrible relationship. I will spare you the details. Let me know if you want to hear about it. I'll do a story time. But for now, focusing on Risa Tisa, it is plausible. It is reasonable. It is possible for things like this to happen. It's not an everyday thing, but it is a frequent enough thing that enough of us felt like we could see ourselves in this story. So be nice to yourself, give yourself some grace, just do that work so that you don't get stuck in that loop. The last takeaway that I have is something that I think anybody, no matter the situation you're dealing with, it will help you out. Whether it's trying to get out of a bad relationship, whether it's trying to avoid a bad relationship, whether it's trying to get out of your job and get a better one, it is to be armed with information. Listening to Risa Tisa's story, a lot of the things that honestly she went through could have been avoided. I'm not saying it's her fault, but it could have been avoided if she had information around the processes that Legion was putting her through. Buying an expensive car, buying a house, cash. Like, go into Google. Is it possible to buy a $750,000 house in cash? What is the process? There is so much power in information, and sometimes that's what abusers use to hold you back, to abuse you, is your lack of information, your lack of knowledge around something. So the more empowered you become, the more informed you become on the situation you're going through, what processes you're signing up for, etc., etc., etc. The more informed you become, the easier it is for you to spot bullshit and to call it out and to get out of that situation faster. I don't want to make this video too long. There's already been a lot said about Risa Tisa, and I want to close it off on a positive note. I know she's gone through this nightmare of a story with Legion, and other women have come out and said they have been through it too with Legion. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of Risa Tisas out there. There's a lot of Legions out there. So to end on a positive note, I wanted to just take a moment to reflect on the fact that she shared this horrible, horrible story. She learned from it and now she's flourishing, okay? She is profiting off her pain, and I could not be happier for her. If nothing else, I mean, these lessons are very, very important. But in this day and age, the fact that she was able to get signed, I think, is it the CAA? I'll find a name and I'll put a screenshot. But the fact that she's getting signed and she's getting all this attention, if she's done all this work, that is just a huge bonus on top of that. Now, if she hasn't done this work, I don't really know what to say. But we're in an age where not only can we learn from our lessons, we can make money off of it. And I know money is not the end all be all, but it is nice to have. So it's nice to see that her story is taking a turn for the better. I'm so happy for her. I hope she makes all the money off of it. She deserves it because she really went through it with that man. I want to say happy International Women's Day to all the women out there. We are strong, dedicated, loyal, spicy, resourceful, nurturing. Like, women are everything. So that's why I wanted to make the focus of this video more positive than negative. There's been enough negative things said. It's Women's Month. It's Women's Day today. So we are not going to talk about anything negative. We're just going to keep trucking along. We're going to keep learning lessons, and we're going to make better versions of ourselves for our future children, for our future partners, for our future selves. What did you learn about the Risa Tisa story? I would love to hear your thoughts below. What might you have done differently if your tire blew out on the way to your first date with somebody and they showed up and paid for it? How would you have proceeded if you were Risa Tisa? Do you know your attachment style? If not, make sure you check that out. Get as much information as you can around how you interact with others, because it will only help you in future relationships. And also share your stories down below if you're comfortable. I would love to hear if any of you guys have gone through a Legion-like story. I will do a story time and share mine, because I can't ask you guys to share if I'm not willing to share. So I'll do another video at some point in the future telling you guys about my horrible story. It wasn't quite to the level of Risa Tisa and Legion, but it was bad enough that I learned my lesson, okay? So with that, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. And again, thank you for the love you showed on the last video. I appreciate you guys so much. And thank you to all my new subscribers. Welcome to the Jeune Mama family. Jeune Mama stands for young mom. So this channel is going to be all things motherhood from my perspective, lifestyle, culture, vlog, reality TV. Look, we do it all over here. So thank you guys so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.